Here is the final draft of a book called You Will, um, Our Pursuit of Liberty. My friend has overcame many issues in her life, but ALS took husband Dan. The family was diagnosed with this disease in the prime of their life. Parents of children, community members, and children themselves should never have to face this battle alone. Our community needs to raise awareness on a national level by being the first of the ALS Community Challenge. Many families suffer from many issues: uh, disease, autism, ADHD, cancer, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and Lou Gehrig's disease, also known as ALS. Love and unity is the answer. Our country has been known as the harbor to find answers, support, and freedom to become citizens in a pursuit of happiness. We each are the proud product of America and have an obligation to Native Americans and other citizens who helped us flourish when we came. Together, we can all create a better process for our understanding of hope. I wrote a uh, prefix to the Statue of Liberty, and it's a quote: "The torch in Liberty's hand." The Statue of Liberty history in 1886. The Statue of Liberty monument was given to the United States from France to celebrate the friendship two had endured over the American Revolution. Over the years, the Statue of Liberty has symbolized freedom and the democracy of the United States of America. Our Lady Liberty found her home in the waters of New York Bay on Liberty Island in 1886 and quickly became an international beacon of hope to more than 9 million immigrants in the 19th century. A centennial gift to the United States from France. The Statue of Liberty was originally the compass for poet, anti-slavery activist Edouard de Laboulaye. Laboulaye believed that celebrating America's newfound democracy after the Civil War, as well as the abolishment of slavery, could also strengthen France's democratic ideals. Young French sculptor Frederic Auguste Bartholdi, who had already been experimenting in large-scale works, eagerly supported Laboulay's idea of a statue and began drawing up its designs. The final version of the design was patented in 1879, and construction began soon thereafter. Bartholdi's design was a colossal, bigger in fact than any other sculptor in the world at that time. Eventually, Alexandre Gustave Eiffel, the designer of the Eiffel Tower, proceeded to design the statue's skeletal framework. Eiffel's structure engineering expertise was paramount to keeping the statue upright and secure. The iron interior would bear the enormous weight of 450,000 pounds, while still allowing the 100 US tons of exterior copper to move independently. Constructing the statue wasn't an easy feat, and not only due to its size, the United States was responsible for building and funding an 89-foot stone pedestal, while France focused on the statue itself, as well as shipping the sculpture in 350 pieces across the Atlantic Ocean. Both countries had funding issues, so they turned to the public for help, eventually receiving construction funds through art events, auctions, donations, and public fees. Joseph Pulitzer publisher of The World in New York City, played an important role in persuading the American public to contribute to the project in exchange for monetary donations for the pedestal. Pulitzer printed donors' names in his newspaper, resulting in what is now considered to be the United States' first ever crowdfunding campaign, and it proved successful. We face similar need of direction in modern day politics. Our family unit has deteriorated due to social media and financial restraints that conduct how much time we invest with our children. Parents are the first beacons of hope to a child that is trying to understand what our country is going to mean to the rest of the world. Flags, numbers, and colors seem to diminish the pursuit of Lewis and Clark, as well as all the mistakes made to become the greatest chance for a happy future. Leadership has failed to address issues here, as families have broken apart, lost jobs, homes, and hope. Our message is, how do we prepare to face uncertainty? My friend did this with grace, humility, and perseverance. She, as well as her family, inspired me to focus more on community. We should all reach out and help those lost children. Words are a start because they design an attitude which projects the foundation for who we believe we can become. Our honorable past was judged in the 80s. Our towns, states, and country was run by voters and politicians. My extended family worked for the government too. As many other families, we had a lot of problems. Parents fed our minds and consumed our futures. We voted in friends, they lost interest in us, allowing others to continue teaching numbers and letters. Some of us missed out. Membership provided discounts to friends inside their circles. Every major retailer sells your information and buying patterns to salesmen. Our circle of friends also benefited as addicts funded campaigns with seized addiction money through sheriff sales, car loans, and investments. States fed voters results with communications and checks. Kentucky alone wasn't helping bluegrass exports as much as marijuana cards do today. Indiana bet on the rising sun, and Jacks came to Cincinnati. Jacks came to us around the Miami Valley Gaming Association. We developed CCC and Turtle Creek to do efforts in recovery. Banks invested in real estate under roads once before, with maps, and people were left with the lessons. Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart said it best on her cooking show when the comment was made by Snoop Dogg, "Only one of us up here is a felon." A question of who can receive investment strategies remains. Laws have been passed deciding only politicians can gain and invest before the information is public. Leadership was aware of future political positions as groups were put together to influence, mostly our youth, to vote, especially Hamilton County. Meeting in restaurants and local water coolers or churches could help get one felon released early from prison, or another felon to talk to his mom after she had brain surgery. Gestures that are commendable. But what about people who don't share those bridges or those networks of friends? People from Tennessee or North Carolina visiting, or a minority, may feel lost and abandoned anyway. Help is needed, but how do we create an outreach to people who don't have hope or faith enough to look? We do that through the ALS Community Challenge. Go to 8 Steps for ALS or Rodney Revel on Facebook, and you will get all the information you need. Mostly conservative views and conservative votes were represented here by pastors, teachers, and politicians in rural Warren County. Our schools and churches and businesses became meeting places and a platform for the elite to represent issues that councils should address. We are supposed to separate religious beliefs and help grow from an influx of new Americans, like local businesses. We are losing this battle while John Q. taxpayer funds the bills for these sports stadiums, followed up by seating licenses and other arrangements, parking, and they are very beneficial as far as the financial ramifications in our cities. But I believe that the taxpayer is deserved to have something that provides more community outreach for our homeless children. Harassment is defined best as the feeling that our flag is representation for our rights. Our flag is a symbol that we remember our country, through good and bad, has evolved together. To this day, I refuse to listen to the opinions on sports, Wall Street, or predictions, or MTV gossip. I listen on Main Street with our kids who sleep in the cold epidemic of America's unwanted. Addicts, neglected and alone, are forced to decide between getting well or getting a cell as long as they tell. In a world of tax relief and government grants, a name is worth more than the paperwork provided to collect it. In this state, I have to ask, are you in union with this country? Because if so, they can excuse me while I try to celebrate a family who has a Hall of Fame teacher in Miss Cerrione. She can teach my children to honor their judgments one more year. And today is about those children, our tickets, and how to win a championship stadium, even if they stack the books against us. And we become the laughingstocks to a tradition of divisional shortcuts. Our children will learn to believe as I introduce the trophy of one family and its value on a headstone. Going home. My older brother passed away in 2013 with a history of challenges to normality. He was not rebellious or mean-spirited. Instead, he was backwards and used drugs and alcohol to numb his anxiety. Marty was challenged in school, he did excel in sports, and he became dedicated to his ways of coping as a teen, and never really rose to the potential most would prefer. But he did live a full life and was happy when it ended, unlike the rest of them who chose to play Chase the Ace. Some would say neither of us became your average American citizen, but at least we become who we feel comfortable with each day without pending sentences in our children's futures. Some influence us, but never before have we been under such scrutiny from regulations teaching them how to farm, how to hunt, how to work, how to love, and how to play as we are here today. My American dream is not for me, but we can help our children by finishing our self-respect issues. Resolve is needed. Our lesson was the Cowboys and Indians' survival of war. Betrayal and rotten results. Even in Spanish conquest of U.S. soil, we found hope. Lewis and Clark had an angel named Sacagawea, and Pocahontas helped them explore while learning from one another with respect, caution, and honor. They encountered to build us into what we are today. History has taught us through manipulation of tax codes, selfish practices of non reported businesses, and with land labor, slavery, and trade that we can become blind to its assimilation of our values. Once we reach the point of following a blind leadership, we become divided and we are defeated. Our government represents all of us who vote, but if we deceive our own children, we will never be able to get them back from the streets. Even losing votes of those kids never taught to count, spell, or read. Television and music teaches our children in ways that we seldom pay attention to. Marketing a certain buying trend can change a child's favorite candy bar from Butterfingers to Snickers with one name attached, Bart Simpson. Subliminary messages were developed in the early 70s by Coke and tested in movie theaters with astounding success. Refer to the book Watchers by Dean Koontz, and it explains it in detail. Words suggesting to drink a Coke product would flash so quickly it didn't register with the audience. Yet their subconscious minds stored it somehow, and Coke increased its fountain sales by something like 400%. And the government stepped in and declared it to be illegal, and then banned the advertising program. Later developments on the internet, like audio messages, shadow prisms, offset speech to sound, and pictures, along with tones, are now being noticed with very stern denials. People are so used to lights, tones, and noise that we operate our time and develop our attitudes using very little instruction. Some may conclude that we could use these tools like time clocks, leading us to crank or mute other people's values. My personal opinion is more alarming because I like to choose for me. Spanish-speaking customers are welcome to influx dinero in my idea of community, which supports legal economic growth. National healthcare and FEMA efforts have followed these other type of philosophies, resulting on Social Security benefits being cut and been manipulated by our government under Reagan's trickle-down economic theories through John Keynes. Inflation here and destruction of the Soviet Union's sovereignty has, just like Nostradamus predicted, began to collapse. Learn more by reading The Evil Empire by author Stephen Gross. In our hometown, our phone rings all the time because we have a landline here that is 40 years unchanged. Stress can cause us to remember the names of insurances, banks, or vehicle registrations, using numbers, names, or images influxed through Bluetooth technology, and is dangerous if it is not secure. Education is imperative to understanding that Sony Entertainment being hacked with spyware is alarming, and the ability for computers to be hacked remains. Sony was hacked by North Korea. Our towers from J-Core or Turner could be manipulated with these type of mechanisms and used to pressure more privileged acquisitions, like our children's decisions. Learn more as I post more on the Ham Report, Ham Radio, live, loud, and proud.